Emergency vehicle operations. Let's go over these. We're looking at the type of ambulances that we are deploying out in the field. So we have several different types. We have type 1, type 2, and type 3, and then a type of heavy duty. The one is mostly like this huge truck that has a truck front, and then the back, the cab is totally separate. There isn't anything to go between it. It's much larger. Our type 2 is more of our van type vehicles, a type of van front and a small type of all-in-one in the back. And then the type 3 vehicles, we have more of our van or a truck in front that then has our square box cab in the back. And the last one was the heavy duty vehicles. Now, the vehicle types is not necessarily written in your contracts, but it is based on the type of geographic location that you're responding to. So a van type or a type 2 type vehicle is much better than a type 1, which is this huge all-purpose modular type truck that can handle, you know, a larger terrain. So if you're in a small metropolitan area that needs to be bussed around, van services or van type or ambulance type 2 would be reasonably utilized. They do cost less money than your type 1s or type 3s, but it all depends on your area that you're trying to serve. Maintenance of these vehicles. We need to be able to take care of everything that's in, around, and stocked in these vehicles. That's to include yourself and the operators, and making sure that operators have enough rest and they're fully energized and they're physically capable of maintaining and operating these vehicles in a safe manner. We're driving these vehicles, they're large, they're going at a high rate of speed, there's lights, there's sirens, and there are other parties sharing the roadways, and sometimes they're not paying attention, and these vehicles can damage and hurt people, and not only people, but then they can hurt buildings and private property and the like. So you need to make sure that they're all within operating and top maintenance, ready to roll when deployed. These includes making sure that your inventory is fully stocked and that you're capable of responding to incidences within that area, which goes back to our pre-trip and preparation. Now, during the pre-trip, this is usually to make sure that you have enough fluids, gases, and meds and equipment to manage the incidences and calls that you'll go on. And this tends to change based on your geographic location and your call volume. Depending on how many calls that you have, you may stock more on your apparatus than if you were in an area that you would, you know, respond to less incidences. In the event, if you're going to be your location is further away and you may not be able to get resupply, you may want to end up having more inventory on the vehicle. Now, the pre-trip goes around to make sure that the vehicle is up and ready during every shift, and this is for safety reasons. Now, and the last step would be to prepare, or basically preparing and understanding what type of environment and the type of calls that we go on, so that when we respond in these vehicles, that we're able to then properly respond, properly manage the incidents and calls that we go on. To do so, we need to actually take emergency vehicle operations course or some type of emergency vehicle operations training, so that we know how to drive these vehicles safely. Follow state laws based on what your local geographic area requires you, but there are maximum speed limits. There are mandatory laws about when to stop approaching intersections, red lights, stop signs, and transportation systems such as school buses, when they have that red lights on and the stop sign is out there, that there are particular laws in your state that may require you to stop your response and wait for these signals to then turn back on to green, or to then turn off to allow you to continue your response. Now, It's learning how to drive in this type of situation, overhead, reversing, sides. Everyone in that vehicle should be a part of or an extension of that vehicle, looking around at all times for safety. The driver is operating the vehicle, but then the co-passenger or co-driver, your shotgun is not there just to read the book or to start documenting and putting things in on the computer systems, but they're out there as the second set of eyes and ears to look at the environment in front of us. Pre-plan. We want to know our geographical area that we're operating in so that we know areas that may cause an issue with overhead or reversing. We might want to know about the roadways that we go on, requiring us to maybe take an indirect route than more than the direct route because there's traffic, or maybe a vehicle will not fit in those areas. Again, the pre-trip is very important. You want to be able to know how many oxygen canisters you got. You want to be able to transfer how much is on the main. You want to know how many backboards you got, straps, restraint devices that go with these C-spine or spinal immobilization. You want to know that the gurney is up and running. You want to be able to have enough protective equipment, IV fluids, meds, oxygen equipment, airway equipment, communications, batteries for EKG, and the like. Most of this equipment is spelled out for us in our Chapter 72 as far as what we need to have. Again, our operators need to be physically fit, have enough rest, capable of operating this emergency vehicle with lights and sirens, understanding that this poses serious threat to life and property if the vehicle is not maintained in a vigilant manner. In some cases, when we respond these vehicles, we may use a tier type of response. We do this quite often. An engine company, based on our incident or response time, may not meet or maintain or meet the requirements based by state law. We go ahead and dispatch a BLS entity, or what we call our first responder communities or emergency medical responders, to provide some type of emergency medical assessment and care prior to ALS arrival. Other things may be having an ALS intercept. The closest thing I can say would be our response units on Oahu. They do also have this on Maui, and you guys would call them your EMS units, that the EMS captains that respond to calls. And then finally we have air operations. Air programs all have their own type of protocols written into them. They may be extremely different from the land-based systems because they are. You don't have the opportunity to pull over on a cloud and check things out. Once you're up in the air, you're up in the air. You can't just pull over. So look at your air protocols and find out when's the best time. When can I deploy these air operations? When are they not no-fly times? How many patients can they handle? What type of resources are on them? And this is required for all different counties and whatever state that you're working in. Particularly for Hawaii County, we know the capabilities of Chopper 2. We know who's on that aircraft. We know our limitations. If you need them, deploy them early. They can always be stand down should you not need them. Remember, when you are standing up this resource, that it takes some time for them to deploy. And once they are airborne, then if you need them, please give them some type of pre-arrival instructions. Give them some kind of update as far as what you're dealing with. And if you don't need them, stand them down as soon as possible. They may be used for another response.